what Puri Shankaracharya is saying here is to say that there is a continuum. They're all related to each other. The Pravritti Marga also should be Shastra Sammat, and through that Shastra Sammat Pravritti Marga, you go to Nivritti, and then from Nivritti, you go to Nivritti. So this is very different model from the compartmentalized model that is today fast getting popular. And hence the Acharya's emphasis on continuum is very, very important. Similarly, when we talk about Pravritti, a lot of it is really about the worldly life. So when you talk about the worldly life, the question of Artha always comes, which is the pursuit of wealth. Again, here today, because of the, let's say, the colonial condition or the modern predicament, a lot of us have a mindset today, which is to say that let's keep all this aside, let's get rich first, which is to say that let's accumulate Artha first, and then we can figure out about Dharma and everything else. Now, that is a flawed construct, primarily because the way tradition looked at both the means and the ends are equally important. And even when you reach an end, how you reach there in terms of the pursuit of what is the source that enabled you to accumulate that wealth, all of that hence gets very important. So here the Shankaracharya quotes a couple of shlokas from Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is elaborated on this particular line of thought, where the idea of Artha is contrasted with the idea of 15 different anarthas, which means that in the pursuit of Artha, you may go astray because you are diverted or consumed by these 15 different anarthas. Now, these anarthas are really concepts like theft, violence, speaking lies, duplicity, lust, anger, quarreling, enmity, faithlessness, envy, so on. So these are all, let's say, qualities that are undesirable, and once men are consumed by these undesirable qualities, then they end up falsely ascribing value to these qualities, and you'll end up accumulating undesirable material wealth. And this is something that this whole moral predicament is something that runs in contrast to today's modern economic model, where it is really loudly proclaimed that greed is good. And you have then Bhagavatam, which is saying greed needs to be avoided because it is an anartha that pollutes the pursuit of Artha. So here there is this ideal that all wealth is not something that we can engage with. So there is a certain kind of wealth which can be engaged in the service of the Lord, and there is a kind of wealth which is really adharmic, so to say. So this differentiation is very, very important. Now there are other such shlokas in the Srimad Bhagavata, which the Swamiji again alludes to, which is to say that, so he says, dhan ka phal hai dharma, which means that the only proper fruit of acquired wealth is in dharma. And it is on the basis of which that one can acquire a philosophical understanding of life. And this eventually matures into the perception of an absolute truth, and thus a moksha from all the suffering. So materialistic people, however, they may try to utilize their wealth simply for like sensory pleasures or advancement of their own family situation, so on. And it is here that the Bhagavata cautions people that death is going to be certain, your material body is frail, and there is going to be an end around it. So there is a whole body of philosophy here which is trying to say that look beyond sensory gratification, look beyond mere wealth accumulation. And it is here that the Shankaracharya says it is this ideal of dharma that needs to moderate or police the accumulation of Artha. And this is something, again, you can see in multiple sources. So the Swamiji also quotes from Mahabharata Shanti Parva, where it is again a very similar notion that one sees here, where it says that the wealth that is obtained as you follow your dharma, that alone is the real or true wealth. And wealth that is obtained through adharmic means, that needs to be discarded. And it also says that one should never let go of dharma in pursuit of Artha. So these are really cases where there is a very distinct proposition being made that there is a dharmic way of accumulating Artha and there is an adharmic way of accumulating Artha. It is not that all Artha is Artha, so it is good. So there is really a very conscious effort that is being done to say that this kind of pursuit is welcome, this kind of pursuit is good, please avoid this kind of pursuit, this is bad. Now, if you contrast it to the way that we operate today, there is really no policing, no moral judgment that is really ascribed to any different model of pursuit of wealth. We are kind of operating in a model today where we have just taken dharma out of the equation and then we are saying, let's just accumulate Artha, let's satisfy Kama, and then we'll see. So that is something that the Swamiji is repeatedly cautioning against in this book through various examples. So again, quoting from another shloka from Srimad Bhagavata, it is very clearly enunciated there that dharma is meant for ultimate moksha and it should never be performed for material gain alone. However, that somebody who is, let's say, engaged in dharma anushthan or practice of dharma, it doesn't mean that they are not going to gain anything materially. It is more of you, whatever you gain materially, you try to satisfy your senses to the minimum and then take the excess, put the excess again in the service of dharma. So it is kind of a cycle that repeats where your focus is on dharma anushthan and not necessarily in terms of a pure consumeristic or sensory gratification kind of an approach. So that is where you can see Mahabharata, you can see Bhagavatam and all these places where that is being emphasized again and again. Now, when we talk about dharma, when we talk about Artha and Kama Moksha, in our terms, in worldly parlance, obviously one question comes up, which is of Jivan and Jivika, which is that of life and livelihood. Again here, the Shankaracharya quotes from Yoga Vasishtam or Nirvana Prakaran from the Yoga Vasishtam. So what he says here is that this particular shloka really says that men should work honestly on earth to earn their bread, and you take that much of food that is required for your sustenance or that is required for your prana raksha, and that's all that you need to do. And once your body is nourished, your focus should be on tattva jijnasa, which means your focus should be on inquiry after those truths that are absolute, that are permanent, and not focus more and more on sensory gratification. So this is something, again, just as in Bhagavata, just as in Mahabharata, you can also find it in Yoga Vasishta. So here, the Shankaracharya says that if somebody adopts a very pure materialistic perspective, that a very charvaka drishti, so to say that there is nothing beyond this body or nothing beyond this one life, you only live once, that sort of a model, then you end up with this thing which says that jivika jivan ke liye hai and jivan jivika ke liye hai, which means to say that life is for livelihood and livelihood is for life. There is no other ulterior purpose. It is just about consumption and sensory gratification, so on. However, the dharmic drishti will say this, that jivan jivika ke liye nahi hai, jivika jivan ke liye hai, which means livelihood is for life, but life is not just about livelihood alone. Jivan hai, जीवन धन जगदीश्वर की अभिव्यक्ति के लिए, which means to say that the purpose of life is to understand the ulterior purpose of Ishvara, Paramatma, Jagadishvara, so on. So this is something that a Bautikvadi or a materialistic will have a hard time to understand, because he refuses to appreciate this other realm of Ishvara, Paramatma. So this distinction is very, very important, because a lot of times, again, given the context of our times today, that we are perhaps not as rich as we should have been in strictly monetary terms. There is a good amount of poverty, let's say, in the Samaj today, as it might not have been there in the past. And it is in this context that there is an extreme focus put on the pursuit of wealth. And it is here that such verses become very, very important, that don't get lost merely in pursuit of accumulating more and more. And there's a lot more to life.